So this video is going to be much more on the longer content form. I might suggest that you grab a drink or a snack and you just, listen to this while doing something else as a background sound or something like that. But yeah, I have a lot of things to yap about here and I just wanted to make sure that I shared everything that I had on my mind. I love drawing. I'm one of those people who started drawing when they were very young, but I never really considered that I was particularly gifted in that, if that makes sense. As each and every artist, my art and my relationship to my art is very related to my own personal story, and it is to encourage others that I want to share mine here. I want them to know that we all go through very rough phases and everyone goes through their own experiences and everyone goes at their own pace. Like a lot of kids, I used to draw a lot when I was younger, but it's really around 10 to 11 years old that I started considering drawing as a hobby. It all started during some holidays where my cousins introduced me to anime, manga, and video games. They got me into action figures collections, but also drawing, and more specifically manga, anime style drawing. To me back then, it was just so impressive because I was a newbie. And you know what? Later, when I got into middle school, I met new friends and some of them really liked anime, manga and video games, and some of them also liked to draw. And I was all the time so impressed by their drawings. Back then, I thought they were so talented, way more than me. But what really triggered me is when I reconnected with some cousins other than the one I mentioned earlier. And what's crazy with this story is that we lost contact for over 10 years. Back then, I was 14 to 15 years old. My cousins were respectively 1 year older than me for the brother and a few months younger than me for the sister. And when we got in touch again after 10 years, we not only realized that we had the same hobbies, such as the same favorite video games, the same favorite animes and stuff, but also we were all drawing. And I had the very first big slap in my face. They were so good at drawing. There was such a huge difference with my level in terms of skills and their level, and it wasn't just the skills, it was also the projects, it was also the knowledge about the industry and everything. And it was the first time I felt such a gap between me and someone else when we had the same goals, and more specifically with my younger cousin. Honestly, there are very few words that could explain how much I love her. She's like a sister to me. We both went through a lot and we could support each other through rough times. We cried together, we laughed together. We have such an amazing bond. I just love her to death. And despite everything, seeing her being so crazy good in something that we share together compared to me, it just made me feel sick to my stomach. Back then, when we were 15 years old, I remember her drawing. They looked like professional level for me, and it just disgusted me, And the only solution I had to fight that was to stop drawing, because I knew I could never be as good as she was. And the worst thing is that thinking like that made me genuinely sad, because I love her so much. I actually want to see her succeed. But at the same time, I can't help but feel so jealous. Even the word jealousy, it doesn't really fit well with the situation, because it's more like some kind of frustration and disappointment. I'd say even distress and very deep sadness, if that makes sense. If there is one person I saw with my own two eyes who has a talent for that, it has to be her. It was incredible just to see her develop her art through the years. And I know that talent doesn't do everything. It is hard work, years of practice, and yes, of course, talent can help you to learn faster or understand some concept easily. But in drawing, talent is never the most important thing, because with practice and hard work, everyone can draw, and that is very important to know. And back then I knew it, but it's just the fact that she made it look so quote-unquote easy, and it made me so frustrated, and God knows how much she had to draw to get to this level, And by that time, I was 15, 16, and I already had so many people that I would compare myself to, whether it was my cousins or even my friends. I just never felt like I was the best at doing something I love. And even worse than that, some people in my close circle were already on the pro level. They all had their own art styles, they all had their own projects, and I felt like I was behind. Even when I was doing something that I was very proud of, when I saw what they could do, I would just keep it to myself. I didn't want to share my drawings. I didn't feel good enough. It just wasn't good enough. And when I say that now, I just want to put a very, very big warning sign that it is absolutely not true. And I was so wrong to think like that. And now that I'm older, I know how hard I was at myself. I just wanted to mention it here, but I will get back to this a little later in the video. Among all my friends who drew with me during my middle school and high school years, none of them pursued their studies in art. And among my cousins, 3 of them did, including the siblings. And guess what? To make things even spicier, we went to the same school. My older cousin and I, we joined during the same year, and his sister joined us the following year. The crazy thing about this situation is that I could have ended up with my younger cousin, because when I went through the art test to join the school, the teachers who reviewed my portfolio suggested that I went through a prep year to get a little better because my skills were a little weak. And I don't know what happened, but I ended up being accepted in first year straight up. And when I think of it, I'm wondering if I didn't want to go through this prep here because I always felt out of place. Everyone had such a great level. I always felt behind. It was very hard. It got to a point where during my end of the year meeting with my teachers, I ended up bursting into tears because I just felt out of place. I just felt like I didn't fit in. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't improve fast enough. Everyone was much more talented than me. It was very hard for me to be constantly struggling with that. And to daily compare yourself to people around you, whether it's your classmates or even in your group of friends. I felt like I was the one with the worst skills. I felt like I was the one who didn't have her own art style. I felt like I was the one who just didn't really belong here. I've seen some of my friends slowly building their community around their art and blooming as artists, and now they have a very good platform, and it's very nice to see so many people gather around their art. And it's something that I felt like I couldn't do because I always struggled not only with my art but also with my own place within my art bubble, my art community. And when I say that, of course, I know that every single artist go through this existential crisis, whether it's comparison with the others, whether it's finding your own art styles. And we mentioned it very often with my friend group, and I see it every now and then on social medias. But despite everything, I just constantly felt like I was inferior to others. I could see how I would progress. I could see how I would get better at some things. But compared to the others, I'm always at the bottom. Originally, I went to that specific school because I wanted to learn how to make manga and how to be a character designer. And when I graduated from that school, I felt completely broken and lost, and I had no idea what I wanted to do anymore. I didn't want to make manga anymore. I didn't want to target the Japanese market because the publishing pace was way too intense for me. I didn't feel like I could keep up with it, and despite speed networking events and more contacts with Japanese publishing houses, none of them actually noticed me. And I think it might be because of my skills that were a little too weak, or maybe my stories were not interesting enough, I don't know. And I didn't want to target the French market either. I didn't want to go into an animation course because working as an animator was not my main goal. And it was mainly the same for video games because I didn't want to work on 3D or game dev. And about character design, there is something I will always remember. It's when one of our teachers came into our class and looked at us right in the eyes, telling us that being a character designer was impossible because there were way too many people who wanted that job and not enough job opportunities. Only the best and the more talented people who already had some connection in the industry could break in. So yeah, as hard as it was for me to hear that back then, I just gave up. There was this brand new thing back then that was the webtoon. I thought I could maybe get into it, but I had a short window of time for an opportunity when there was not a lot of competition on the market because it was new, and I didn't take it because I wanted to finish another project first. And when I had the opportunity to go back into the webtoon industry, I didn't feel ready as I was before, especially because I didn't have any other project to submit. And back then I just recovered from a depression that was actually diagnosed by my doctor, and basically I didn't feel able to tell a story, to finish a project. I couldn't even get the storyboard done, so just to think of finishing a whole project of webtoon, it was overwhelming for me. So to put it simply, I graduated from a school, but my diploma was useless. By the way, I will expand on the art school system in France, the whole thing about diplomas, because I feel like it's very specific. Not everyone will understand. So yes, I will expand on that on another video. My skills didn't meet the industry standards for a starting job, whether it was in illustration, character designer, or any other thing that I was able to do. I had a small network. I had contacts in publishing houses and so, but I had no project to submit, and I didn't even know what I wanted to do anymore. So after that, I took a few years to work in more conventional jobs to pay back my student loan. And back then, my projects, my drawings, everything related to art was just pushed on the side. So drawing went back to a hobby. And during this period of time, I realized two things. The first one is that having a day job, it is very hard for me. It's very hard when you do a crappy job just to get money because you need it to survive, but you don't take any pleasure or any fun, even more when it's literally draining you. I kept having back-to-back burnouts, and my social anxiety went to peak, and I thought I'd relapse into a depressive state. So all that to say that it was very hard. And the second thing is that, believe it or not, I really love drawing, and I wanted to make it my job without any deadlines, no class assignment, no project mandatory to have good grade and pass the year. Just drawing what I love was fun. When you can just take the time to draw whatever you want to draw, have fun with your project. It's crazy, but I just really enjoy drawing. Back at the time, I became a Genshin Impact content creator. I had a few art challenges with my friends and more personal projects. It helped me to rekindle my relationship with my art, kind of. But the thing is, I always felt limited in my art. I always had a few things that would stop me from really drawing what I wanted to draw. I remember that when I was younger, my mom would suggest to me that I take painting or anatomy classes, and I refused because I thought that, because you have a manga style, you don't need that, which was a big mistake. I have to admit, in my opinion, it is better to master the basic skills and then go for a more stylized art style afterward, once you know where to exaggerate or where to simplify. And now I regretted it because very quickly I wanted to detach myself from that manga style that I had, and I didn't know how to because it was the only thing I knew how to draw. I've literally learned how to draw by drawing manga style. It was very rough. I was limited by my skills. For example, if I wanted to draw a character with a good posing, I lacked anatomy skills. And when I say I was limited, I also felt limited by comparing myself to other creators, whether it was friends, other content creators, or even professional artists. When I say that, I feel that it was more me that was limiting myself. Despite being part of most students from my promotion who didn't get a job after graduating, I felt like I was the one who struggled the most. So I followed everyone, like my whole group of friends. They started living from commissions, Patreon, and conventions. I ended up making only a very few commissions because the demand decreased very quickly. About Patreon, of course I didn't have a big enough platform to support it, so that was out of the table. And about the convention topic, I will dive a little deeper about that in another video, but it was very much one of the hardest experiences I've ever went through as an introverted and very socially anxious person. Financially, I barely made it out. So yeah, basically I still have boxes of merch that I didn't sell in my room, and I don't really know what to do with that because I didn't have the courage to open an online shop. All that to say that it didn't work out very well. And to go back to my relationship with my drawings, I just realized that even the process of drawing was rough for me because I really loved doing the sketch and the rough, and to some extent I even liked doing the flat colors, but everything about the rendering that was a little more polished, it was very hard for me. I couldn't really get to the fully illustrated drawing step. I had weakness in backgrounds, I had weakness in perspective, I had weakness in values, in light and shadows. I loved drawing characters, but my anatomy skills were not good enough. And in front of everything that I didn't know how to do, in front of all the skills that were missing, I felt so discouraged. I still needed to practice so much, so many different things. I didn't even know where to start. And when I say that, I really tried to force myself to practice before my drawing session, but I eventually felt discouraged because drawing felt more like a mandatory task than something fun. And I just lost the passion. It didn't feel fun anymore because I was just pushing myself so hard. And last but not least, there was this big complication point that was my regularity at drawing. Honestly, I can go from drawing every single day to nothing at all in weeks, if not months. And even through my medium of drawing, I went from drawing traditional to drawing fully digital, and then it took me years to go back to traditional and mix a little bit of both. I have just so many projects of fan arts, original characters, everything is in my mind, but I just cannot make them happen. I want to draw, but I'm not able to. It's really hard and it feels kind of ridiculous to say it like that, but something is stuck, something is blocking me from drawing. I feel like we talk a lot about the blank page syndrome, but here is just the fact to plug my tablet, like to plug in, or just to start sketching on my sketchbook. It just doesn't work. I'm stuck. And once I start sketching, there is no more problem, but it's the first step that is the most difficult for me. So, a small recap here. Basically, all the day jobs I had put me in a very hard mental state. I felt scared of conventions. I was very bad at social medias and I didn't really feel comfortable on it. It feels like there are so many good artists around me and I kind of felt lost in the sea. I hated my art style. I had bad skills in every single category and I didn't know where to start to fix it. My drawing process was hard to love between the rough, the lines, the flat and the renders. I couldn't even create fully rendered illustrations. I was unable to carry a full project. My dream job seemed impossible to reach and I was not drawing enough, so I couldn't really improve. Basically, I was just not good enough. So I ended up at the Mission Locale. So the Mission Locale is a French establishment that helps young people between 16 and 25 who are out of the school or work system. It helps them either to resume their studies or find a job, even for housing or financial issues, etc, etc. And basically I just had a very amazing advisor. I met incredible people there and I just realized that, I just love drawing characters and telling stories through them, so you know what, fuck it, I'm going to be a character designer. Then I was ready to resume my studies. I met my second art school director who saw the potential in me and reassured me. I went for prep year to improve my basic skills, all that while doing at the same time an apprenticeship, internship, whatever you call it, as a 2D artist for a mobile video game company. Honestly, through this prep year, I didn't suffer much from comparison, not at all as much as I used to with the first school, but this time the difference in skills was massive. I'm talking people with skills level as good as people from higher promotions, people coming from prestigious school, competing against students who just started drawing for half the places to get accepted in first year. The competition was just so hard, and honestly I didn't feel that bad because of the other skills, but because of mine. I just felt so frustrated with myself. No matter how hard I worked, there was no school assignment that I did that would make me proud of myself. I felt disappointed every single time and so overwhelmed by the number of things that I just didn't know how to do or needed to improve. In the end, I only studied for 1 year in that school, and I realized that maybe this way of learning didn't really help me. I loved the classes, but expecting me to learn as fast as everyone else in fields where I had very big weaknesses, it wasn't for me. It just didn't help me. The competition didn't help, and it got to a point where I was even doubting myself so much that I couldn't even do observation drawings. So, where am I now? Well, I guess I'm here. I'm doing a mentorship program with one of the teachers that I met in my second school. So I'm working on this portfolio and concept art project with him, and it's really great. To be fully honest, I don't feel like I'm working as much or as fast as I want to work on it, but I feel like it's a better environment, a more adequate environment for me to work in. I just go at my own pace. I don't have any pressure, whether it's from the deadlines or from the competition or anything. And I get to realize that it's not a matter of finding a job as soon as possible, but more a matter of finding a job that really suits me the most. And I feel like I would be more inclined to find that kind of job when I take the time not only to understand how I work, but also what I actually want. Honestly, it's taking time, like I said. Despite feeling like I never really left from the starting blocks, I really try not to pressure myself. Number 2. As of now, I think I still want to be a character designer. I don't know for sure if I have what it takes to be one. You have to draw so much, like hundreds of designs and different iterations, and kind of have to work non-stop. You shouldn't get too attached to the design that you make, and at this point I don't even know if I have enough creativity or if I'm productive enough just to be character designer, I don't know if I have the will or the courage to work on designs that I don't really feel thrilled about, or different kind of projects. I don't really know if I have the courage to see my designs being rejected. I don't even know if I have the qualities for this job. I am literally in competition with the whole world because everyone wants to be a character designer, or at the very least everyone wants to be a concept artist, right? I highly doubt that I am the only one who went to see Spider-Verse or Arcane and who felt so inspired to work for these big companies, right? Everyone wants to apply for the big roles, the big projects, the big companies, and like my mentor told me, before competing against the whole world, I am first and foremost competing against myself. It's honestly awful to see so many great artists who share the very same dream job as me, and feeling like I don't even stand a chance against them. I don't feel legitimate, I don't feel like I belong, especially if I'm not drawing regularly, right? But I really try to focus on my own progress. In the end, I just told myself, if I don't get the job, it's okay. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be mine. There will be another opportunity. And in the end, if I'm really not meant to be a character designer, well, it's okay too. There will be another job for me. Number 3. Well, I'm still struggling on a daily basis to love my art style. I'm still waiting for the day when I'll stop drawing for hours, liking my drawing for 1 minute straight, then hating it to my core, and throwing it in a folder that I'll never open again. I try to study artists that I love, and I'm heading to a more semi-realistic art style, if that makes sense. I can see that little by little, I'm getting there, and it feels just so satisfying. There are just as many art styles as there are artists. There's something that I really love to do on Instagram. For example, it is to check on one of my favorite artists' page and scroll all the way down to the beginning. And to see even these pro artists' style evolve so much, it just makes me so excited to see how mine will evolve in the future. I just can't wait to see what my art will look like in a few years. To go back to my skills, I'm still lacking in so many different areas and I still don't really know where to start. I already mentioned it before, but because I learned how to draw with a very stylized manga style, my basic skills were very bad, whether it was in anatomy, body structure, in the movement, in the expressions, and I'm more specifically speaking about characters, right? But it was just the same for environment, perspective, and stuff. Because my basic skills were very bad, it was way harder for me to unlearn all that and to start drawing in a more classical, academical, realistic, observational drawing way. And it's way easier to learn with this more quote-unquote academic way and then learn how to stylize your own art style. I just have so much to learn before calling myself a concept artist or even a character designer, and I have just so many playlists of whether it is art tutorials, art style breakdown, references, speed paintings, and I don't even know how to even learn efficiently. But this time I'm trying to tackle down this problem with another angle. I want to try mixing fun and practice. I want to try mixing studies and fan art, references and personal projects, and see how it goes. You know, I had the chance to meet the mangaka Yoshitoki Oima at a fan meeting at a very big convention. For those who don't really know about her, she is behind A Silent Voice and To Your Eternity. And I had the chance to ask her a question, which was, do you have an advice for an aspiring artist? And she said, never stop having fun while drawing. And honestly, it was the best advice she could give me, so I really want to thank her for that and I want to share it with you. I'll be honest, I still have moments of inactivity. I just can't draw every day. Professional artists, not only they can do it, but it's even their job. And they keep going with studies and personal projects and traditional and digital art, and I can't. Well, at least not yet. My pace is still blocking me sometimes and it gets frustrating. I even got to the point where I was wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just draw like everyone else? Is it some lack of self-discipline? Is it some lack of dedication? Is it even procrastination? Do I not take this as seriously as I should? Am I really made for this? Can I actually draw? Do I have what it takes to be an artist? Do I really belong here? I don't even draw enough to be an artist, right? But at some point I just started to wonder, why do I need so many breaks? Maybe it's not necessarily wrong. Maybe I need them, maybe it's just my way to work. And thus being an artist, depending on what you're specialized in, really should mean drawing every single day. Maybe I just can't work like that. Maybe I can find a way to work around my art while including these breaks. And why couldn't I be an artist in my own way? Instead of blaming myself, I need to understand first how I actually work and even take advantage of my periods where I'm not the most productive and learn how to work efficiently even despite my breaks. And please let me come back with my little warning sign here. When I had deadline, whether it was for work or for school assignment, I was always on time, and it is very important to respect your deadlines, right? Here on this topic, I'm mainly talking about my personal projects and my drawing with my own art journey, mainly in my free time, you know. When it's about professional projects, just make sure that you're always on time. So yes, I just wanted to clarify that and give you a little more context on that. I guess I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I love drawing. I just do. Even if it's hard, even if it cuts me, even if it's frustrating me so much, even when it's making me sad, I just don't see myself doing anything else than working in the creative field. Whether I'm telling stories through my voice, through my writing, whether it is through videos or drawing, it is where I want to be, you know? When I say I am made for this, I don't mean it in an arrogant way or just to prove myself something. It's more in the sense of I really feel called in this career path. And maybe I wasn't born with a particular talent in that, but even if it feels contradicting with everything I just said before, even what is frustrating ends up giving me a certain sense of satisfaction. It's not just a hobby, it feels like a calling. I just have so many stories to tell, so many fan arts to make, so many characters to create, so many universes to explore. I just can't wait to share them with the whole world. Well, my socials are pretty dead now, but I don't want to restart a page from zero. I want people to be able to trace my history back from the beginning and to see where I am from and where I'm going. I want them to see that I made an art that I'm proud of in X numbers of years. And if I can do it, everyone else can. Just like the artists that I admire, who I happen to scroll the whole social media page all the way down to the beginning, I want to inspire people, I want to be known as this fan artist who has a hyperfixation on this topic or that topic. I want to gather my own community around my art and things I love. I want to show my drawings and my universe with pride. To be honest, I know that my mental health played a big role in my relationship with my own art. I pressured myself so much, and I know I was so wrong for that. Today, I don't know for sure if I can say that I'm feeling good, but I know that I'm feeling way better than before. And I truly believe that we should always listen to ourselves. It's not always a matter of procrastinating or just being weak, but sometimes if it's not working, then maybe it's just not working. Because sometimes your body just can't. I believe that in the process of reaching my goal, I shouldn't push myself to the detriment of my own mental health or my well-being. Okay, time to enter the circus. The entertainment industry. I know, it feels more and more hostile. Between the lays off, AI, less job offers, and the competition's going way harder. Let's not even talk about the unethical companies and the final projects that looks less and less inspired compared to all the crazy concept art that you see and got lost in the development. But I want to believe that everywhere I go, I'll find a place for myself. And if that place doesn't exist, why not create it myself? Whether it is as a freelancer or just by having my own big project. Maybe by having my own video game or animation project, I can get noticed by some big companies or some bigger artists. Or vice versa. Who really knows? Maybe I don't really want to work for a company. Maybe I don't really want to work for a big artist. At this point, I just know that I don't want to put myself in a box. Especially when there are so many different possibilities in front of my eyes. The art sphere is pretty huge. To put it simply, there are just as many artists as there are art journeys. Because you don't come from a very good school doesn't mean you can't have your place in the industry. There are just so many self-taught artists in this industry, or even some artists who started working in another career path and they just changed and joined the industry in their late 20s, 30s, or even 40s. A good resume is always a good thing, but the portfolio just matters as much, in my opinion. And there will never be one and only one way to build your art career. It is a marathon, not a sprint. What truly matters is the finishing line and not the road you take. Well, I know I'd be lying if I said I don't feel that little pinch in my heart when I see my cousin's drawing, or when I see my bestie getting followed back by her favorite artist or reposted by her favorite companies. I'd be lying if I said I never go, wow, I'd love to draw like that when seeing some other artists. But today, who cares? I should focus on myself first and ask myself, in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, what will I be able to do? How much will I have improved? What will I do better? 16 years old artists with professional concept art level will always exist, just as much as people 10 years older than me who just started drawing. And maybe they will envy my skills. Drawing just has an infinite potential and we never stop learning. Everyone goes at their own pace, and once again, it is not a sprint. Last but not least, who said there was only one way to be an artist? who said you had to know how to draw everything to be good. There are just as many jobs as there are artists. And let me tell you something, some people on this earth are being paid to draw only mechas. Some live daily by drawing furry content. Some do a certain type of content on platforms such as Patreon. Some people only draw fan arts. Others have their own webcomics. Some artists are known only to draw cute animals or vegetation. I want to do that too. I want to be known to draw what I like. Of course, self-discipline is needed, just as much as hard work and practice. But if there are people here who only draw chibi icons as their job, what keeps you from drawing what you want? Nothing but yourself. We only have one life, so let's do something together. Let's pick up our pens and pursue our art journeys. Just go at your own pace. I don't know about your weaknesses or if you can reach your dream job, but if you love what you're doing and if you feel called in this direction, then go one step at a time. You'll see where it gets you. Yes, you are an artist.